Here is a list of things you don't want to miss out on if you're gonna go on a salmon fishing trip. We are at Camp Onka, which is a salmon destination in the north of Sweden run by Fish Your Dream. The things I would mention here is my everyday carry for salmon fishing in this wide river. I'm sure you will be able to find useful things to have for any other salmon destination in the world. Something I always carry actually is 2 sets of pliers. One here, small forceps, and then a bigger heavy duty one in my belt like this. So I can always have one easy access. Here in Lainio River, it's a unregulated wild river. It means that it's a lot of different fish in this river. It's very alive. So there is both the salmon, there is trout, there's grayling, there's even eyed that can come and take your fly. So you need to be able to have tools accessible to unhook fish. If you flip over to the other side here, I have a hook sharpener. I think it's very important. Every time that I am into the bottom, I just do a lift snap to get the leader up on my rod. I can check the hooks, see if they're good, and then just sharpen it. This is the diamond sharpener that I've had for many years. Super happy with it, can warmly recommend. Another thing that I often bring around my neck for easy access is a nipper to be able to cut leaders, change flies. It is also the ones that has a hook sharpener, for example. So you always have several hook sharpeners around. I think that's very important. It should be easy to sharpen your hook. Either if you're sitting resting on the shoreline or if you're standing out in the water, it should be easy, so you actually do it. I carry a fly box where I have all my hooks organized. I have both treble hooks and double hooks. Over the years I've gone to prefer double hooks. I think they work great. And here is one that is in size 10. That's something that I use a lot. Depending on the style of fly, we'll come into flies, but depending on that, I use sometimes steering silicone tube that goes over the knot on the hook. So these are from Stonefu. They work excellent. They're soft, so they don't break. Easy to use and just very reliable. I really like these ones. They are in the middle size, so medium. The amount of flies that I carry with me out at the water is 2 small fly boxes. They're getting quite sparse now. It's in the middle of the season, so it's getting a little bit thin here, but yeah, some different colors, some brown, some yellows. We made a separate video if you want to check that out, just what kind of flies we recommend for here in Camp Onka, so you can check that out in the link in the corner. So the trips here to Camp Onka is fully guided, so we can solve stuff if you just tell us in advance. But some other stuff that it can be nice to have your personal stuff, and probably most people want to bring, is their own waders, wading boots, and a rain jacket. And if there is something that you cannot fit in your luggage or doesn't have, tell us in advance. We can probably arrange something. But yeah, just write it on your list to pack if you have. I don't think you can see really how windy it is today, but looking at the trees, you can see there is some movement there. And what is very important, especially in a day like that, is a good set of sunglasses. So not only they protect from the sun and the glare, the polarized sunglasses like this can help you see through the water, but also you're handling heavy lines, strong hooks, thick hooks, and it goes in high speed, so you need some protection for your eyes so you don't get a fly or the line or something in your eyes. The sunglasses I have is from Costa del Mar, and it's the copper lens with a silver mirror. I think that lens is the best general use sunglasses and the one that I have all the time. The model that I wear is the one called Reefed On Pro. Also the guide will carry a net. I think it's very important. More people should use nets when salmon fishing. It can shorten the fight, and the handling of the fish is more safe for them. So if you plan to release a salmon, then make sure to have a net with you. Here the guides always bring it. If you're gonna carry a bag while fishing, 3 things that can be good to have in there is mosquito repellent, sunscreen, and a water bottle. I think these 3 things are gonna make it a lot more comfortable for you. When we're out fishing, we don't use anything else than mosquito repellent, but there are some clothing, like this one from Vision, for example, that has a mosquito repellent inside it already. So when you have this hoodie on, there is a lot of mosquitoes here, so they're less likely to, or actually very little likely to be flying into your ears or so, just by having a hoodie. So I'm not comfortable with fishing with a mosquito net or something. This and like a little bit of mosquito repellent works great. Right now we're in the time of the mosquitoes, which is the early season. When you come towards the end of the season, it can be good to have 2 things that I don't have with me here right now, but it is a beanie and a headlamp, because from middle of July it is no longer the midnight sun, so it can be, or will be starting to be quite dark at night. And yeah, if you're out at that time, great to have these 2 things, because it can get quite cold and it's gonna be a little bit darker depending on how late in the season you get. In the closing week of the season, end of August, it is really dark at night, and it's actually the chance to see northern lights. It's that far up north. Last thing to bring, except the actual tool, the rod that we're gonna fish with, is a wading stick. If you feel that you're more comfortable with using a wading stick than walking without, I think definitely you should bring one. I don't use it in my normal day fishing. If I have a little bit of a tricky situation, I'm gonna round a rock or something, these rods, this is a 15-foot rod, they are so strong, so I actually, in emergency situations, I can put it down into the bottom and use it as some kind of stabilization, sort of like a wading stick, but it wears on your on the rod butt if you do it every day, I guess. So maybe something that you shouldn't rely on, but it's a little smart trick to keep in mind. But yeah, let's come to the rod. It is a 15-foot rod that I use. It's a 10 to 12 weight reel, and right now I have a shooting head on. Having some different lines, I think, can be very important. We use both full-length lines with rechangeable tips. The Vision Hybrid is a really easy to cast system, so you can just use different tips. These tips are very strong, so they're more of an extension of the fly line. They're designed to be in the front of your fly line. Be careful if you choose poly leaders. These are not poly leaders, these are actually part of the fly line. Poly leaders, make sure they're strong enough. We see some people come here, they want to use poly leaders to get down a little bit more, and we cannot really recommend them because they're too weak. So make sure that if you're using different tips, that they are actually really strong. The locals, and we use a lot of shooting heads. So there are Scandinavian heads. Nowadays these are so easy to cast with, and I have like a wallet with different sinking rates on them, everything from floating down to sink 7. It can be a lot of different situations depending on water level and also which pool you fish. So I often also carry several rods, so I can intertwine, change in between them. Some tippet material and perhaps a tapered leader. Tapered leader, especially when you fish the lighter lines, like a floating, intermediate, sink 2 or something. It's nice to have a longer tapered leader. If you use the heavy sinking lines, it's typical to just have a couple of meters of tippet. So tippet of 0.42 is what I use, and then a tapered leader that is a bit thicker to that. Right now I have the Vision Ace 9-foot 0.45 tippet. So that's a little bit about the gear. So we have an entire playlist of some advice to get you ready for salmon fishing here at Camp Onka. So you can check that out, that whole playlist, if you plan a trip to here. Thank you so much for watching. See you over there.